I'm doing too, man. Yeah, and that's like the worst one that I hit, because somehow they always find a black prisoner somewhere. Yeah, no, because once they catch the dudes over here, they take the money. That's all. Yeah, they become powerless inside the system itself, and then eventually they come to the hive that go off and operate from the outside, because they own some of the shops around the special, so they own some of the church and some of the groups with the food that they feed them on the special. So that's why they turn them into like no, because they trick them on the special. You know how you go off like you treat a dog, you teach your dog to go off like eat from you on the special. It's just that some of the dudes that they get are like young. They don't learn that sometimes you don't take candy for a pedophile around the special. You don't learn to trust nothing on the special side. Yeah, but at the same time, once they give them the food and they start like patting them on the head over on side, and they start whispering to them, eventually that's how they get some of your burden on the special side. Yeah, and then eventually the other groups that penetrate to the Muslim network get them on the special, because they just don't know what's beyond the Muslim network, because they never travel outside the Oriental space. So like they never seen the Oriental space for what it is. Because then eventually once they get to the Muslim network, there are no specialty that in the center of like ranges from the Middle East all down to like the jungle or like Papua New Guinea, all that spaces in there. There's an endless conflict of warfare in between ethnic groups into more often specialty. Yeah, no, because again, it's not the not just like the religion itself. It's just that ethnicity, or like the adult male that got to rule over that space is gonna be like less gentle or relaxed, or like laid back, less chill. Also, they miss the entire chill bass update that we had on the space, because some of them didn't have to go out for like be over certain spaces that allow them to relax on the space. I tell you, like some of these dudes are like mad evil. Yeah, as like a group that go off and be within the cyber system. They're not like the East Coast where you're gonna hear gunfights all the time or something. They're gonna be like nerds inside their own system. That are like control centers that are like spy cam around the space, and they have a bunch of spy on their cell phones that send them updates over the text message, and then go off and snitch other people. All they do is just go off and snitch to law enforcement on the special side, and that's how they got to make the proficiency on the special. And they did a fight, and then they send the money towards us. That's how you won't find in some of the region that the military state itself are the gangsters into more often, especially. And then eventually when they come over, their main cover is that they look like drug dealers on the special. They look like gangbangers. They look like other groups are on the special. But in reality, they're like cops. That's like special cops that go in prison inside their own space to go out for like somewhat rob other cops, and the robbers are on the special. It's a game of like robbing back and forth in between the system. That's how it escalates over what you see on 4chan with like the dude chopping up those dudes here and then tossing them in acid. Yeah, because the fact that is that type of level that they escalate on, especially to like rob each other and somewhat sabotage each other's mission on the special, especially across the Chinese state. Yeah. So that's where my space here will go off and complain that the Chinese government over here will go off and go full dictator inside their own space, and make the game much more difficult, because their stuff is pretty much open. It's pretty much a military government that's like with the mayor that's going inside your house, and there's nothing you can do about it once they come inside your house. Where you don't have the constitution to protect you, no laws whatsoever. It's all things. That's how it's just like they copied the dictatorship with the kingdom to go off and install themselves as like a army that's like king. Yeah, inside their own space here to go off and like somewhat tell people that there's a wall above them, and that's the main military group that decide to go off and follow their uncles. Yeah, that they went out to teach them that they fought a bloody war back in 1940s. So just imagine that the World War II veterans, yeah, came back inside the United States, and they didn't let the civilians go off and rule each other on the special. They came through and they installed themselves as the government inside the civilian system. And then by the time you're done over here, you hit the municipal level, you can't go any higher than that, especially when it comes to like the law itself. So you literally have the Supreme Court with the military system where you're coming to interfere and go off like put you behind bars for just cussing at the president of the United States into more often, especially. That's the Chinese government. That's the Oriental space. Yeah. The reason why they have power inside some of the black collectives is to a domain of like a couple Muslims that they get that fall into some prisons over there. That's like mad grimy and stuff, and the other blacks that are like from different African regions, other spaces there that decide to go into those regions thinking that this is America, not realizing that the space is not America at all. So everybody down there is poor, and the lowest dude there is going to snitch on you, and then go off and walk all over you specifically, and then let you go off and make your life miserable until you can go off and control you underneath his own slum gang on the special. So you lower them the slum person around the special. So that's how they get to like capture so many dudes around the special that then go off and desperately try to get their own family or their own criminal organization to go off and like come in and get trapped inside that system over here, and they don't tell them nothing. And by the time they get released, they think that that was the bosses around something. Then they integrate back inside their methods and the company. And then eventually that's where you're going to hear about the people that disappear off the United States and the Cameroon slave caste system over there. What's up? Yeah, and eventually the only ones that could fight them or obtain freedom over them specifically were like the dudes from like big company or corporations like dudes like Microsoft or like Intel or like groups like that like have their own resources like the Bagel Brothers or the groups from here that are dependent on their own resource, and these are the only dudes with their own power and their own territory system that they respect. Unfortunately, we went into a cyber system where like the codes and like other things were being sabotaged around the space, and like eventually the fact that to like be inside a small domain of a molecular world, it's like deals information that'll go off and like happen really fast and become too lethal on, especially because the money that happened to that collapse, to those glitches that they put inside that system itself, this collapse, just like the Iranian nuclear reactor sabotage, would then go off and cost the economies back and forth and fall back into a domain of warfare, where like eventually the front line is the only thing that wins the economy on the special. Luckily for me, I had the Iron Forge area to go off and develop the pressure system for like the nuclear reactor. But I think that's way to like special cooling and special system and special computer systems. So that's why the group get mad that they could not surpass my computational model over here, because we would not give them access to go off and hack it. So the only thing they could do at this point over here is go off and get like old senior engineers and professors, give them money, and then go off and try to like predict to a domain of physics what my simulation, my computer model might be like, and then go off and try to copy and replicate it. Yeah. Back then I didn't have this problem, but only recently we had the transformation with the cell phone system over the internet, where the information makes it back in the one day. So back then, 1945, I had a good way to keep secrets and be able to like somewhat isolate some spaces out there. I let information travel by mail or couriers on, especially nowadays. Could jack into the electrical domain of you, send your young spy inside my college university, where they're gonna be inside the camera or the satellite system, and then immediately take over that layout into my office, especially, and then go off and redesign the technology, and then bring back the industry. Especially, I just got lucky that the Western system were like big players that are using big mountains. I can't see the mountain range, but they're doing big things to go off like somewhat create unique technology and statistics that the other could not release, because of the fact that they had to go off and spend money. They had to go off and use resources to go off for like mine nodes or like the mountain, to go off and bring like 25,000 ton or like gold, and then go off and like experiment with it and send it to space. To like a spacecraft to go off like a ship off on the space. So that's what saved the Western system away from that trap from like the small thieves that they had around the space. They could not go off and copy unique systems that are like too massive, because of the fact that the budget itself, they were not willing to put it up, because they're already doing corruption and they war inside their own domain on the space. So far as long as I'm able to go off and like take big projects and then go off and like do a testing system, they will never be able to like always try to go off and copy and replicate my system, because of the fact that the data that I get from like big projects is too expensive for them to go off and do specific, unless they have to go off and like engage into a war and kill the people by the millions on the space.